Once upon a time, a long time ago, there lived a king and a queen who desperately wished for a baby. The years went by, and one day their wish came true. The queen gave birth to a new baby girl, a new princess. "Let there be great rejoicing," said the king, and he declared a party for everyone in the whole kingdom, including the fairies, because in that kingdom, in the secret places, there lived fairies. They invited the fairy from the mountains, they invited the fairy from the fields, they invited the fairy from the lake, and they invited the final fairy from the forest. But they did not invite the fairy from the caves, because she was wicked, and she was rude and bad-mannered. She never said please, and she never said thank you. The day of the party arrived, and everyone came to the palace with their gifts and their presents. Their gifts were in gift boxes. Some were big, some were small. There were gift boxes that were red. There were gift boxes that were green. There were gift boxes that were blue. There were gift boxes that were gold. And one was tartan. The fairies, too, brought gifts, but their gifts weren't in boxes. The first fairy from the mountain said, "I will give this child a gift. The child will have the gift of the music." And sure enough, as she grew up, the princess became the most musical princess there was. The second fairy, the fairy from the mountain, said, "I too have brought this child ein gift. It will be the gift of the wit. She will be very, very witty and tell the good jokes, yeah?" And sure enough, as the princess grew up, she was very, very clever and funny. Everyone laughed at her jokes. The third fairy, the fairy from the lake, said, "I too have brought a gift for the princess. My gift, it will be the gift of the talking in the good languages." The princess, as she grew up, had a gift for languages and could speak them all. But then the wind blew, the sky darkened, the clouds rolled in, and the thunder and the lightning crashed. It was the fairy from the caves. She was wicked, she was mean, and she was cross because she had found out that she wasn't invited. She said, "So, you think you can stop me from coming to the party? I have brought no presents, I have brought no gifts, I have brought a curse. I will curse the princess. My curse is this: when the princess is 16 years old, she will prick her finger on a spinning wheel and she will die." The king said, "Ah!" The queen said, "Ah!" All the people said, "Ah!" And the fairies too said, "Ah!" Except for the final fairy from the forest, who had not yet given her gift. And she said, "Okay, I cannae lift the curse, but I can soften it. She will no die, no. I shall prick her finger on the spinning wheel, but she'll fall asleep, ye ken, for 100 years. Well, as time went by, the king, he banned all spinning wheels from the kingdom. They were all thrown into a big fire and burnt. It was a difficult time for the dressmakers and the fashionistas in that kingdom. The princess grew up. She became musical, she became witty, she became intelligent, and on her 16th birthday, what did she find? Up in the tallest tower, the loneliest tower in the furthest corner of the castle keep, a spinning wheel left over from the days of her youth. She'd never seen such a thing. She spun it the other way, she spun it quickly, she spun it slowly, and she pricked her finger. She was looking at it thinking, there's a drop of blood. And before she knew it, she was asleep. The king and queen found her, and they tucked her up in her bed. And before you knew it, they were falling asleep too. They took themselves up in their bed. Everybody else in the kingdom started yawning and everyone fell asleep. The castle was quiet. Nothing happened. Outside, the trees began to grow. The thorns and the brambles grew up all around the walls until you couldn't see the castle anymore. All you could see was a wall of thorns. a wall of brambles, a wall of trees. Until 100 years later, who should come along but a handsome prince. He'd heard the story of the beautiful, witty, musical princess sleeping inside the wall of thorns. He took out his sword. He decided against it. He took out his loppers, started cutting down the thorns. He took out his secateurs and cut down the brambles. He took out his pruning saw and chopped his way into the castle until eventually he found the doors were open. He made his way inside until he found the princess in her chamber, sleeping like this. He took her hand and he kissed it. And at that moment, she woke up. "I say," said the prince, "will you marry me?" Because that's how they did it in those days. And the princess, she looked up at the prince and she said, The prince said, "I say, will you marry me?" Because that's how they did it in those days. And the princess said, The prince asked a third time. "I say," he said, "will you marry me?" And she said, "Yes." And so they were married. "Let there be great rejoicing," said the king, who had also woken up. They had another big party to which all the fairies were invited, and they all lived happily ever after.